I don't know if you know this, but Democrats seem to be in charge of an awful lot of things here in Colorado and nationally, especially in city centers. Why is that? And does the Republican viewpoint have any way of surviving inside the urban areas? Joshua Sharf, who put together an interesting piece on how Republicans can win back the urban areas. Pardon me, I don't buy it. Can never happen.
You're one of those guys sitting out at the college, the college campus. Republicans can't win. Change my mind.
Change my mind. All right. First of all,
right there with Steven Crowder. Yeah.
Let's ask the basic question: why is it that when people start living on top of each other, that they turn very, very progressive?
So it's unclear why, but it is clear that it's a very strong correlation. And it's not only a correlation of where people have always lived in packed together that they tend to vote Democratic. It's that as areas become more dense, they become more Democratic. It's unclear why that's true, but we see that in cities.
Shortage of oxygen?
We see that it might be. It could be some of that. It could be, maybe they're just scrambling for the crumbs left on. No, there's a real strong correlation there, and this happens even as areas in cities become denser, but also as areas in suburbs. What used to be suburban areas tend to become denser. They tend to vote more Democrat. So what's happened?
We just need to change the growth laws that everybody has to have an acre lot, and that's the only way you can build anything. We win back.
That's one process-oriented approach.
You have a different approach. What is it?
So my idea is a little bit different. Understand that we're running out of real estate. And if we take Colorado as the example here of a state that's in transition, that is sort of maybe slipped over to the other side, to the dark side for a little bit. And so we're running out of real estate. We can't make up losses in Denver with Douglas County, and even El Paso County, while not necessarily competitive as a whole, is a lot less, ruby red than it used to be.
When you say we can't get more real estate, that the denser these cities become, the rural areas are not going to counterbalance
exactly.
that. I mean, we can make the growth areas larger, but really it's the city centers. We're not going to make it up by getting more farmers.
Exactly, and we don't have but so many people in Dougco. And we see areas that used to be either competitive or reliably, if not overwhelmingly, but reliably conservative, reliably Republican, like the ring counties, Jefferson County, Arapahoe County, have become over time, even since I've been out here, have become increasingly blue. So we're running out of real estate. We just don't have any place to go. We have to, if the party is going to be competitive at a statewide level, it has to learn to compete both in the suburbs again, and in particular to make up some of this lost ground in the cities. We may never win Denver in a statewide race, but we have to appeal to, we have to regain the trust of urban dwellers and pick up our vote total there.
Would a good analogy be that the battle between urban and rural are still the burbs, and that as those burbs get more dense, they're going to move more progressive, but there are opportunities for us to recapture that?
Absolutely.
All right,
absolutely.
How? Draw that out for me.
Yeah, so what's happened over time is that people have essentially, and I think in cities this is somewhat true, lost trust in the Republican brand. But what also is going to happen, and we see this happening in Denver now, is that city councils in these progressive cities are mismanaging the cities. It's leading to lower quality of life, higher crime rates, higher cost of living, greater frustration, more traffic, and sort of the everyday things that affect people's quality of life are all going in the wrong direction. And you see this in San Francisco, you see this in Portland, Seattle, and the Denver City Council seems to have modeled its governance on those kinds of cities.
Well, I mean, you think about the needle problems, the homeless problems, the trash problems, and now the crime problems that are growing in Denver. If we had a good news source, if the papers were what they once were, people would be freaking out by how much crime and murder has increased in Denver.
Yeah, over the last, I think it's since 2008 or so, I think it was 2008, maybe 2004, the violent crime per capita, the violent crime rate in Denver is up something like 50%. So it had gone down for a very long time. People remember the summer of violence, the 1992, 1993, right. And it's lower than it was then, but it's been on an upswing for a very long time. And that gets people nervous. There gets a point where they feel like this is just going in the wrong direction, and it's not just a little cyclical bump, that something's really off the rails.
All right, so people's quality of life is hurting.
Yes.
Help me make the jump then of how Republicans make something of that.
So there are some governance opportunities there, right? You can say, instead of putting money into light rail, which doesn't move enough people, doesn't get people off the streets, when it gets sold to when it gets sold to people, light rail gets sold to people as it'll get everybody else off the street so you'll be able to drive, you see how that works, right? So everybody else is waiting for everybody else to use the train. It never solves that problem. Stop declaring war on the car. Stop telling people that the city government is in the behavior modification business, and that its job is to make.
I live in Boulder.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah, I know.
Road dieting, take away your straws, take away your sugar.
Make your traffic as bad as possible so people will get on their bikes and get on their scooters. It's not going to happen. People love their cars. They're going to stay in their cars. They will put up with a lot of misery, but that doesn't justify the misery. So you need to start trying to make that better.
Give me another example.
Stop taking in transportation. Buses. I'm a big bus fan. I don't necessarily take the buses because I have a car, but there are people who rely on buses. Those need to be, instead of cutting back on service, make those more available, especially to the people who you have because you've increased the cost of living. You've driven a lot of the working class out of the city into the suburbs, into Aurora and farther out, who don't necessarily have the money for a two-car household. They have to take the bus to get where they're going. Stop cutting back service and make it available to them. I know that one of the issues that sort of libertarians and conservatives argue about is the whole drug issue. We can differ. We can agree rather that marijuana, maybe you don't need to go to prison for 10 years for possession of an ounce of marijuana. Dial that back, and I'm fine with that. Obviously, we've legalized recreational marijuana here in Denver, but heroin is a serious problem. All right, people are not making rational decisions when they're on heroin. You had needles all over the place. Make sure that you don't make excuses for getting the dealers out and then letting them skip bail. That combines with the homeless problem. It combines with the crime
I'm seeing
issue.
The problems. Here's my disconnect. You're saying here are problems, and like many Republicans do, listen, we want the same we want the same end game. Your plan is only making things worse. I mean, look at Denver and homelessness. I think your plan isn't working. Our plan is better. And so instead of fighting on, listen, vote for the Republican here locally because Trump's better than whoever, that's not the argument. The argument is, let's try something different here to address the issues that really are affecting you. Your traffic, people walking across your yard, what's happening to the value of your property, how hard it is to get an affordable home. Let's focus on those issues. How does a Republican, though, still get that message out? Because it's not a friendly world for Republicans in the suburbs or pretty much anywhere.
Well, the good news is that a lot of these races, especially in Denver, are nonpartisan races. So people may know, who Republicans are and who the Democrats are, but there's no D or R sitting in front of your name when you're running for RTD,
city council,
when you're running for city council, when you're running for education, for the Board of Education. Those things are not, so there's an opportunity there to be able to present these ideas without immediately getting clobbered by a label that puts people off.
Let me add one part to this, which is libertarians do the same thing. Is, oh my God, we're gonna, every year Republicans are gonna say, we're gonna take out Diana to get, this is the year. And every year I go, no, you're not. No, you're not. A terrific guy running for a 2nd congressional. He was a libertarian. He said, I'm going to get 10% of the vote. No, you're not. And he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he didn't get anywhere close to even that goal. And I'm thinking, if you took that money, if you took that effort, and you decided, you know what, I'm gonna work on this Parks and Rec division and do something there, or I'm going to start focusing in on city council races with that money. Diana, you have it. Whoever the D is and up in the second, you have it. We're going to focus in on those smaller, less sexy seats, and we're going to put our energies there. I think they could have an impact. I also think libertarians, large L libertarians, could have more of an impact there than just being spoilers on the ballot for Republicans elsewhere.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point with boards and commissions and so forth, something I know Independence has been active in, and that taken a leading role in, is getting people, there's an entry level to that. You have to build up some cred, one, with knowing the language of government and sort of knowing how things work. And number two, getting some level of expertise on an issue. And then finally, building connections within the community. There are plenty of opportunities on boards and commissions to get appointed to those and begin to kind of set policy for the city.
Those boards and commissions are just sitting there. All you have to do is go down to City Hall and go, can I be on that board? Often you can. All right,
that's right.
We don't have much time left. People want to get involved in this. They want to learn more. First of all, where do they read your article?
Right. So the article itself is called "The Way Back for Urban Republicans," and it's at American Greatness. It's at amgreatness.com.
amgreatness.com.
Right.
You can only read it in the morning.
You can save your AM greatness for the PM too if you want. Yes.
See, that's how flexible Republicans are.
Yeah, there we go.
Joshua,
Pragmatism.
Pragmatic. Thank you so much. Listen for me on KL Radio. Read me the Denver Post. Tell a friend about the Independence Institute. We'll see you next week.